If you've just joined us, you're watching Tonight. A reminder of our top stories. Abia State Governor promises to apprehend killers of security men. Finance Minister Wale Adu says Nigeria needs more borrowing to fund budget. Speaker House of Representatives has led work against gender-based violence in Abuja. And protesters express frustration over petrol shortage in Malawi. Glad you're still with us. To Labour matters now. The Nigeria Labour Congress is holding firm on its December 1 deadline for implementing the new minimum wage nationwide. The body has reiterated that all states must implement the new minimum wage of 70,000 naira as mandated by the law signed by President Bola Tinubu in July 2024. Despite over 30 states complying, including Lagos and Kano, others like Zamfara, Sokoto, and Nasarawa have yet to meet the requirements. NLC spokesman Benson Upa confirmed that the union's directive stands, warning that workers will embark on an indefinite strike in non-compliant states after November 30. The NLC insists on full compliance, emphasizing that majority is not everyone, as it prepares to hold defaulters accountable. Let's take a look at this development. We're joined now by Labour Law Expert Ireoluwa Oguntuase. Ireoluwa, thank you very much for joining us. There has been substantial compliance, 30 states so far. Are there any indications for you that the remaining states will come to an agreement in about a week? Because that's when the deadline expires.
Okay, thank you for having me. I think it's a fact that 30 states have already complied, remaining 6 states. I think if we are to grade it by virtue of percentage, I think that's a very high mark, and that's very commendable. And for me, like I've always intoned, I've never been an advocate of strike, and to that extent, I would not advise the Nigerian Labour Congress come December 1 to go on strike by reason of the fact that the remaining states have failed to comply. And these are my reasons. Number one, we need to identify the fact that labor is in the exclusive list, and to that extent, is an act. The legislation on labor is an act that covers the whole of Nigeria, but all the governors are also major stakeholders. Now, for the remaining 6 governors that are yet to join, why can't labor do a march or a rally or a protest, to show their dissatisfaction with the fact that the governors are yet to join? Because I wouldn't subscribe to a situation whereby labor will go on strike when 30 states have already complied. I don't think that will go well for the whole of Nigeria, particularly considering the economic implications that strikes, have normally done, have normally foisted on the citizens of Nigeria and the economy as a whole over the years. And I think we should have learned by now that strike is not always the solution. Now, the disadvantages of strike is more than the advantages. And if we are also to look at this critically, the number of states that are yet to comply, they're just merely 6. So why can't they engage the 6 governors and let them know the reasons? And I don't see any reason why Labour can still not, to a very great extent, maybe extend it 2-week extension, so that at least the state can also
but some would, on the flip side, some would argue with you that it is also a mark of disrespect and dishonesty from the governors to the labor unions, because the labor union have given them time. This was in July. We're talking about December as a deadline. You mentioned the economic situation. The economic situation is something that everybody is citing. Would you if somebody says you're being unfair to the Nigeria Labour Union in their bid to go on a strike in protest come the deadline?
Now, we need to understand something. This issue is not about Nigerian Labour Union, but Nigerian workers and Nigerian as a whole. Nigerian Labour Union are representing Nigerian workers. So if we are to apply the utilitarian theory by Jeremy Bentham, the question we have to be asking ourselves is what will be the greatest good for the greatest number of people in Nigeria? Will strike be the greatest good for the greatest number of people in Nigeria, especially the workers, for the state governments that are yet to comply? In my own opinion, I don't think so. And I've said it countless times that Nigerian Labour Union should find more creative ways of engaging the governors, of engaging the president, instead of going on strike.
What
Because we've
creative
all
ways
seen
would you
the example.
encourage? Because, I mean, that's part of the conversation we're having. What creative ways would you encourage the NLC to employ? I know you mentioned earlier peaceful protests, but beyond that, what else would be something that would be more assertive and that would compel action? 6 out of 30 is unfair to the citizens and workers in those states, don't you think?
Now, I agree with you that 6 may be unfair. Now, 6 is only unfair to the extent of the workers in that state. Now, we need to understand. Now, for the six governors that are yet to comply, the effect is going to be on their workers. So, in terms of creative ways, now, why can't NLC, in addition to the protest, why can't they picket them? Why can't NLC, in addition to the protest, why can't they write statements and put it in the newspaper? Why can't they write statement and put it in the newspaper? Why can't they actively engage them, actively, and put it in the full glare of the public? What I would suggest that they should do is a process of trying to, 30 governors have consented to it or have implemented it. And I believe that the 6 state governors, they're all brother governors, they would also be running because they would also not want to be left behind. Everybody is looking at them. A process of naming and shaming every time. This particular state is here to comply, this also state is here to comply. It will be a different thing if all the states are here to comply. But in fact, why can't they even take up the issue also with the president? Because I believe that as at the time that Nigerian Labour Congress wants to agree, on the issue of the minimum wage, the president at a point have to actively attend the meeting. So the president, in as much as Labour is in the exclusive list and Nigeria is a federal system,
I'm actually
actively, get involved in this.
I'm actually very curious as to what the president is expected to do in this scenario for the 6 states that have failed. But we're time pressed. So there is one other important question I'd rather you pay attention to, and that is the question of the impact of the amount that has been approved. Will the implementation of the 70,000 naira minimum wage really impact the quality of life at the moment? Or should Labour demand more, considering our economic reality?
Well, at this point, Labour cannot demand more because we all understand that the issue of minimum wage is regulated by legislation. By the previous minimum wage, it provided for 5 years for review, but one of the concessions, that Labour entered into has now reduced it to 3 years. Now we need to understand that, given the new or extant minimum wage act, now there are 2 things. 3 years and the changing of the minimum wage from the old one 30,000 to the new one at least 70,000. So at this juncture, it is not possible for Labour to be saying they want to review it except after 3 years. So that one is gone. Now, what Labour can do now is to also fight. There is nothing that says that Labour cannot also fight for inflation, take up the federal government on inflation, and take up the federal government on issues that have to a very great extent cost increase, increase in the lifestyle, increase in the economy, like the issue of inflation, and also if we also look at it, the issue of electricity is also one of the things that Labour can also look at. For me, I've also been an advocate that in lieu of fighting for the increase in the minimum wage, they can also contemporaneously have also fought for a lot of things that have also affected the increase in the cost of the living. Unfortunately, those are the things Labour failed to do, and those are the things that is actually affecting the citizens right now. In addition to the issue of
I agree with you on the aspect that Labour can actually advocate for other things other than the minimum wage, considering where we're at the moment. Thank you for speaking with us.
Yes, thank you for having me. Have a restful night.
You too.